Welcome back to Brevity Box. This is being recorded on December 19th, the year to end all years 2020. Back again for episode 9. Feeling good, Brando. Feeling good still? Having a
Feeling
good
great.
week? Yeah, me too. I know we talked earlier, but I I think it's cool to be alive at a time where entertainment is able to pull from so much resource material. And I'm gonna go for low hanging fruit because this is the
Yeah,
stuff
boy.
that's been getting me through. Like, you know, I know we normally end up talking about politics or sports, but the thing that helps me avoid that are shows like Cobra Kai. I've now watched through those 2 seasons twice now, and I can't help but always feel that they've the pure joy, really, that they could execute a cohesive storyline that not only like sources the original movies, but using those clips as flashbacks, as a way to continue a story that you couldn't have seen coming. It just feels, it's supposed to feel 35 years rich, but it's stuff like that. I recently had a real one of those kinds of moments with The Mandalorian. uh Second season finale, it kind of touches on a little bit of that, and I always get blown away when they can, if you've been around for that original material, or maybe you've just watched that original material and they have some homage to a scene just in the way it's shot, or kind of the build up to that moment being a reflection of that, again, previous material. That shit has kept me happy in all the craziness that might be too much reality, and I'm like blown away. I'm glad to be in a good mood because of it. I wonder about some things pertaining to our guest today with that same thing in mind, but I'm going to save it. What about you? Have you kind of had the same thing, or have you been going from a musical standpoint? Like, what's got you going?
You know, before we hit record on this, you were giving me crap about being a full-on Apple shill, yet you're basically a Disney shill. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's, you know what, sustained.
Sustained.
I'll
Yeah.
own it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll own it. I
Mm-hmm.
have to.
No, I mean I had this fun little background about me. I hate Christmas music, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. I I think there's a lot of people out there like me that probably played an instrument when they were young, going through elementary, junior high, and high school. Were forced to play pretty much the same Christmas standards every year for a
For a
Christmas
decade.
concert for a solid, yeah, a solid decade, and you just grow to hate them. Somewhere around the sophomore year of high school, my brain just snapped, and every time I hear the song "Slay" right now, I want to punch something. That being said, on my way to the store this morning, I was listening to the radio to satellite radio, and one of two good original Christmas songs came on that just made me feel good and happy.
I'm
Last
wondering.
Christmas by Wham.
Hey, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Not
I
quite as
agree.
good as Run DMC's Christmas in Hollis, but it's a
Wow.
good song.
Those are two great picks. I mean, I'm an unashamed George Michael fan. And that song still kind of, it's been Christmas. Every time that song comes out, it's Christmas.
And you can't, and you know, the ongoing controversy with Baby It's Cold Outside, which isn't necessarily a Christmas song, it just gets played around this time of year. I'm a pretty progressive guy, but you can't apply modern standards to something written during World War II. That's all I'm saying about it, and we're moving on. So,
Canceled.
yeah.
Coming after you on Twitter, you insensitive prick.
Now, so hearing that George Michael song just put me in a good mood, man, and it made me start thinking about kind of and we may have touched on this in an episode past, just some of the media we're using to get through the year. And I
Yeah.
feel like one of the things I might be one of the last people in the world that hasn't seen The Mandalorian. The last two Star Wars movies left a pretty sour taste in my mouth, so I just
Yeah,
haven't been
totally
excited
fair.
for it.
Sure.
I could spend a solid hour ranting about how much the Rise of Skywalker sucked, but I won't do that.
And we've talked about it. You know, I can't, I wouldn't defend those. In my opinion, I kind of share some of that opinion, but I think that you're right about entertainment being what gets you through. And I was saying about The Mandalorian, in many ways, it's the things about it that are not like it reminds me more of a Western, or it reminds me more of totally different types of telling a story. And I like the way that they've sort of merged those things, right? That's super entertaining for me.
So I do have to mention two things that have gotten me through 2020. One of
All
them,
right.
I think, for some of the listeners out there, they might be a pretty hard sell, but hear me out on this. I know we're all burned out on politics, but you really got to sit down and watch Veep, VEEP,
Oh my God.
on
Yeah.
HBO.
Yeah.
Because what that show does is it doesn't necessarily say Republican or Democrat. In 6 seasons, I'm pretty sure those words are never once uttered,
They aren't.
but Julia Louis Dreyfus, a national treasure, plays the vice president of the United States, and
It's
it is
Curb Your
it is one of the
Enthusiasm for
funniest and most
politics.
well written shows I've. I think it's the funniest show to ever air on television.
It might be.
It is not for the children, and to my understanding, several years ago, a bunch of staffers from the Obama administration sat down and said, out of pretty much all of the
Oh, that
DC
it was the
dramas
most
out there,
realistic.
that I think that I believe it slightly edges out The West Wing as the most realistic, which is hilarious and terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it is well, and it's funny because it does kind of stand on something that we were talking about as well. Is you know, it's 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 hard to make politics funny now, right? Because
Which
then
is
if you
why the
start,
last season of that show wasn't that good.
yeah, right.
They couldn't outdo reality.
I know, I know, I know. It's true, and like I said, having some ability to disappear in a rabbit hole of memories of great movies, you know, it's what got me out, you know, other than music and Last Christmas and the entire George Michael catalog that you apparently swear by. Any movies,
I
video
will
other than that? I know you haven't seen The Mandalorian. What
I
have you been
will just say
watching?
one of my favorite scenes from Veep though is when somebody screwed something up, and I forget the context, but Vice President Meyer referred to it as like using a croissant as a dildo. He doesn't get the job done, and it makes a fucking mess.
A croissant.
A croissant.
Croissant. There's a Q
And
in
she
there, right?
overly pronounced it just to make it even funnier. Um, I've been trying to sit down and watch more movies. Nothing has really stuck out. I finally got around to seeing Joker, even though I've owned it on digitally for like a year now, it seems.
Yeah. And
It seems much more relevant and poignant now than it was when it came out.
you think it took? I'd like to watch it again because when I first watched it, I wonder how I'd feel about it. I guess I've seen it twice. I guess I wonder how I feel about it third time. Kind of going where we've been. Interesting thought on that.
I try and stick with lots of. I mean, now normally I listen to a lot of R&B, soul music, funk, happy music. But because it is Christmas, and like we've discussed my views on Christmas music, I have been going through the first four Metallica albums on repeat recently. Uh, it's yeah, my little holiday tradition. It's between that and the first four Black Sabbath albums.
Well, it's I guess music makes me think of that. That kind of there's so many different like you said, funk brings you joy. Obviously, you're listening to Black Sabbath, Metallica brings you joy. For me, I was thinking about that in terms of
I swear
uh
to God, if you say Goldfrapp, I'm out of here.
anything under Goldfrapp, Scissor Sisters, D-Light. I could say any of these names, you'd just be blown out of your mind. No, I was really going for what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking
We're
about
not there yet. We're not
television
there yet.
shows.
We're not there yet. We almost are. And then
Oh,
one last thing that I'm really excited about tonight is my favorite trio of people just put out another special on Amazon. Yes, the new Grand Tour special
oh,
is out.
okay. You know what? I never get tired of those three guys
How
and
do
Cars and
they
all of it.
typically they typically refer to themselves, and what they do is the cutting edge of cocking about, which is pretty accurate, I'd say.
You
I
know
have
what,
no.
man? His review of the Subaru BRZ was honestly a huge swing point for me to get one.
You and I have very similar cars in the fact that if they both had about 40 more horsepower, they'd be perfect.
Man, I like it. I don't want to get caught up on that. We could have a different car episode. I want to move on from there, but I'm just saying that show has impact. It sold me on something I was trying to decide on.
And then there's some people that use different genres of media to kind of bring themselves joy and whatnot.
Yes.
Some people, like your wife, for example, enjoy informative murder porn on like A&E and whatnot or whatever.
Can
And
I
then,
take a sec there? I want to. I'm gonna give it right back to you. But I gotta say, you touched on something that's sensitive to me because I can't. I've never been able to adjust to this. Right.
yeah,
Uh, I'm sure I've talked about it many times to any listeners out there. My wife is a healthcare professional, a lot of experience in the ICU and whatnot, and that has desensitized things about her what she watches on entertainment. Like she can have chips and dip and watch Dr. G Medical Examiner. I can't when she breaks out those like snips, those huge for trees and limbs and starts going at somebody's rib cage, I check out. She's like getting in there, like just enjoying every morsel. And you're right, it brings her total joy.
dude. 2 nights
More
ago, I
so
was
than
eating
like
mac and cheese,
comedy.
and I went down a Dr. Pimple Popper rabbit hole.
Yeah, you told me that's a horror show too.
And then there's people like our guest Kyle, who enjoy watching people get massacred and tortured and terrified to
Put a
bring
smile on her
joy
face.
and put a smile on his face. Let's go ahead and bring Kyle into the conversation here.
Hi, my name's
Welcome.
Kyle, and
Hi.
I hate Christmas music as well.
Yes.
Did you also play an instrument?
I did. I played the
See?
drums
It's a
actually.
thing.
Really?
Yeah. I played the drums. Not great, but I did it for a few years in junior high and like the beginning years of high school.
Okay. So if you were percussion, you'll understand this.
I was
The thing
percussion.
that set me over the edge is that part in Sleigh Ride where like the 2x4 or whatever thing slaps together.
I hate it. I hate
Yeah,
it so much.
it's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
And the last time I had to have an operation was December 2nd, 2015, and the surgeon already had Christmas music on in the OR, and I
Mm.
vaguely remember hearing that song, having it set me off. I was no, I was this. It was a twilight sedation, so I was awake. I
Yeah.
vaguely remember going on a rant while having my eye operated on about how much I hate this fucking song,
This is
and
a
eventually
horror
my
scene.
doctor had to tell me to shut the hell up so she could do her job.
This is
Having
a scene out of a great movie. I'm telling you, I would watch this horror movie.
yeah,
You like
having
literally
a twilight sedation with Christmas music playing in the background while
the
getting your
song
eye
that you
work
hate
on.
at exactly the moment you hate that song is playing right as you're just
Yikes.
hearing something go into your eye.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
American Horror Story season 10. I'm
I
in.
remember she started stitching things up right as I heard the in Sleigh Ride.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Ugh. Well, I think a proper introduction, man. Our guest today is a host of one of the shows also on the Ruminations Radio Network, Ruminations of RedRum. We're going to talk more about that in a second, but proper welcome to the show from Brando and I. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Big
having me.
fan.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we want to get a little more into motivations behind what you're doing. I think everybody you always have your friends and your cohorts listening to your stuff, so it's easy for us to say we're fans and whatnot. But I think a lot of times people are going to have questions. Who's this dude? Where's he come from? Why the hell does he get happy when somebody's dying on screen? I need to see why that smile looks so sinister and happy at the same time. They want to have these answers. I think you know this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already dead inside, so the fact when I see somebody dying on screen, it just I just relate. It is what it is.
You're just lonely and looking for company, and there's going to be some soon. Is that what you're telling
It,
yourself?
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, is it kind of what we were catching on there as far as what entertainment's getting you through? I know a lot of times when we're chatting inside our own Discord, we're constantly talking about different forms of media and entertainment. I think games is a mainstay for all of us here, but is
It's an
there
art. It's an argument starter. Yes.
Yeah, definitely an argument starter. But in terms of like movies, television shows, man, is it strictly a appetite of horror movies that's getting you through?
Actually, quite the opposite. I've been watching horror movies through the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, but it's been mostly games. I haven't, like a lot of people, I haven't been able to hang out with my friends and whatnot, and like person to person. So, hanging out on games and being able to talk and chat and bullshit and kind of have my attention on a game while having a conversation with them has been something that's helped me get through. Um, Horror movies, I've been watching them. Don't get me wrong. I've been watching them for the cast and also just in leisure. I've seen some pretty good ones this year. I've been catching up on The Mandalorian. I just started season 2, so I'm not at the end yet. I heard it's like a 10 out of 10 banger, though, the season finale.
It's yeah. I mean, look, listening to your show, I know that you'll instantly see references to other material in droves, and the way it's orchestrated is where I was just satisfied. Right? It's like having the perfect hamburger. Everything is perfect on it, even the things you don't even pay attention to, the pickles. Right? It's like
Yeah.
everything's perfect about that scene, and it was just very satisfying all around. The show's good, but super satisfying all around.
Can we talk about Star Wars actually for just a second?
Yeah,
Do it.
let's do it, man.
Also,
Let's
a
strip it
perfect
back,
hamburger.
but-
Also, a perfect hamburger does not have pickles on it. You fucking savage.
It can go both ways. It can go both ways. Just saying.
Moving on.
Anyway, so I know this is going to get me a lot of shit, but I actually
here we go.
like the prequel movies. Okay,
It's okay. You're young.
know.
I get it.
I know. Episode 1 is kind of garbage. I'll give it that. But it sets kind of a foundation that I actually dug throughout the rest of them. That being said, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite. I know it's a cliche answer, but I mean, it is what it is. It's a good
It's
movie.
not a cliche if it's the right answer.
Yeah,
That's right.
it is what it is. I enjoyed Rogue One.
Yeah, I liked Rogue One a lot.
Great
I
movie.
don't know. The new trilogy just burnt me out so bad that even getting into The Mandalorian was like, I was like
Tough.
kind of like I was having this like mental like conflict where I was like, it's Star Wars, I gotta watch it. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to. I'm burnt out. So like, I kind of forced myself to watch season 1. I enjoyed it very much. Not as much as people have enjoyed it, but I do like it. Season 2
I'll
is
agree
good
with you
so
on that.
far. I've only seen 2 episodes.
No, I think you're right about season 1. I think a lot of people were super hype about it, and a lot of that I think is that it was focused on something that looked like Boba Fett, right? Looked
Did you
like
just say
it was
Boba
going to
Fett?
explore that, huh?
Did you
Boba
just say
Fett.
Boba
Sorry.
Fett?
Yeah, I'm in the South, man. Everything's Bubba here.
So is Boba Fett a Mandalorian with Confederate battle flags on his armor?
And has a million shrimp recipes. Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
No, I didn't. I think the thing that got me about the first season was that it felt more familiar to me from the original release trilogy, 4, 5, and 6. Like that, those two felt more paired than the prequel trilogy and 4, 5, and 6. I won't even go into the most recent one. And I think I agree with you on the sense that the first time I went and saw that movie, like I remember being in line on release day for Phantom Menace, and
Yeah, me too.
if it
Same here.
were like the Darth Maul bit at the end, I was all over that. But the rest of the movie, I was upset just because I didn't think it fit. Right? I didn't know how to understand it.
It was C-SPAN with lightsabers.
Well, I mean, you could say that about a lot of them, right? So, but going back and rewatching them, I have liked them more. I get them more in the context of the story. But I think, in a weird way, I know we're getting way off tangent here, but in a weird way, I felt like making myself sit down and watch some of Clone Wars and Rebels, and that for some reason made the prequels more enjoyable even further than I expected.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
meeting out that environment and the world around it. I think that was the thing. I had come to build this universe based on A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which seemed really grungy and everything, and then the leap, which makes total sense, right? But the leap into this pristine sort of environments of the prequel trilogy, that is, I think that's sort of threw a lot of people off for a loop. Me too.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a trilogy that had its up and downs with like me liking it. Like when it first came out, I was standing in line, loved it. Uh and then I went through that weird hump where I was like, you know what? But is it like did it need to happen? Did it need to be made? Like is it
Right.
worth it? And then I think the more I watched it too, the more it kind of grew on me. So
Well, and it's such a cultural, I mean, it blows me away how deep that entire universe is across the planet.
mhm.
Everything is so, everybody knows Star Wars. Everybody knows Darth Vader. I mean, you could go to the Czech Republic and wear a Darth Vader mask. At some point, people are going to recognize the character and know what it is. I mean, that's it. That's actually an interesting segue. Do you think, I'm going to go back to horror for a second. What's the famous horror character that you think would be recognized worldwide? Is it Jason?
It's got to be Jason. Yeah,
It's got to be Jason.
yeah, it's got to
Jason
be
is the
Jason.
Darth Vader of horror. I
Yeah.
think so. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
it
actually
actually
makes a
works
lot
really
of
good.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's obviously way heavy hitters, arguably when it comes to like the horror game, but as like a universal standpoint, like it's got to be Jason.
Wow. Okay, so
And he's been
before I
in
get into
space
questions,
too, so it all works out. It makes sense.
It's
Jason's been
true.
in space
It's true.
with Coolio, I think.
Wait, was that Jason Goes to New York? It's something like that. It's something like
No, Jason X. He was in space.
Oh, you're right. Oh no, I thought you were talking about Coolio still. I thought he was he in Jason X?
Coolio was in one of those weird movies. That might have been the Dracula in space one I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, people, that is a real
I
thing.
see where you've gotten those confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
So-
they all can't be Event Horizon, okay?
Oh
never,
man,
never
I
seen
love
it.
What?
Never seen it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know.
we got to talk about Event Horizon in a second. I have a question though about where this horror movie fix started. Like, is it what? I mean, I guess I want to know what was the first movie in your memory that scared you into this deep affection for it? Like, what made you an appreciator of it? And did you get scared, or was it more like you discovered you were a psychopath at 6 when you watched an entire like a Nightmare on Elm Street and laughed the entire time? Was that you're like, I love this. This is beautiful.
I'm like sitting there clapping, all happy, like.
Right. Exactly.
More. I mean, I won't go into a huge backstory or anything, but it started young. The first movie I remember being like really scared is Candyman.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, that's one of my earliest memories is Candyman, and that freaked me out as a kid.
I forgot about that movie, and you're right. It's scary.
Yeah, and now Jordan Peele is making a remake. Apparently, I don't know if you guys heard about that.
Man,
I did hear about
not.
that.
That's amazing, though. I like it.
If it was anybody else behind it, I think it was a stupid idea. And Jordan Peele, I trust.
Yeah, no, me too. So Candyman for sure. Also, there was a movie adaptation of Stephen King's Thinner.
Oh,
And-
yeah, that movie freaked me out. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, because as a kid, like the imagery of him just like slowly turning from like this big dude into like this like skeleton almost.
And the
When
way
in America, it's the other way around.
I got to tell you, it's not a lie that sometimes I've looked at my overweight ass in the mirror and pointed at the mirror and gone thinner. It doesn't work. It doesn't. I don't have the magic. I can't make it happen.
I'll tell you which one really got me as a kid, and I think Charlie, we've talked about this before. The Serpent and the Rainbow freaked me out.
Yeah, Serpent in the Rainbow really got me
Crazy voodoo zombies.
on a different. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing about movies like Serpent in the Rainbow, thrillers, more of the terror, I guess. Silence of the Lambs,
Hmm.
and Thinner touches on that. You know, that there's this psychological element as opposed to the sort of obvious fears of a giant man with a hockey mask and a giant machete stalking you and killing all your friends. I mean, those movies got into your head in a totally different way. And in Thinner, I mean, he starts off as sort of a grotesque beast, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not that bad, but I mean, he is a bigger dude. But
By standards of
yeah,
that era, yeah, he was a pretty big dude.
yeah, I
Things are
guess,
different
yeah.
now.
At least that's what I think they were going for. I'm not so much describing every person on the planet. I'm just saying, like, in that moment, they're clearly going for making an impression. Kind of like, look, I thought going on the whole, like, you can answer this better than I can. Is a movie like Seven, is that
Ooh.
considered thriller, terror, horror? Like, what category would you place that under? Because that movie, uh, I still hold it up as one of my favorite films of all time, but truly screws with me and sends me chills. You know what I mean? And it's got an entire message. Spoiler alert, right? We can talk about that by now, I think. But would you classify that as a traditional horror movie, or do your categorizing of horror have to do with like a main villain?
So first, I want to start out by saying I've never seen Seven.
Oh.
God damn.
And hear me out. Hear me out. There is a few. Trust me, I watch movies from every age. Okay, I
Okay.
remember going to the theater and seeing Seven in the theater and almost sneaking in, right? Because I wasn't old enough. Like,
Yeah.
I know the impact the movie has. I know it's a great movie. I haven't seen it.
Sure.
I would say that.
I definitely won't spoil it then.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, if you did, it's fine.
I was about to start talking about stuff right now.
I think the statute of limitation is over, but
Not again. See, I got to see that one. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I think, like, to me, okay, so what horror movies, like the horror movies that scare me and the horror movies that, like, I'm just more interested in are two different things. Like,
Okay.
I'm into slashers. I like slashers a lot. I like, Michael Myers. I like Jason. I would even say Freddy's kind of a slasher. But they don't scare me. I just enjoy them. I think they're fun. Like, I think that,
Oh, that's fair.
I think a single unstoppable force that, like, the team has to overcome to take down, the David and Goliath kind of theme. Like, I like that in horror.
Well, that's sort of what's brilliant about Scream, right? I mean, embracing that joyride of it, as opposed to everything being approached in a serious manner. I know it wasn't the first to do it, but it might be the most famous, right?
It was the first to do a lot of stuff, including just make fun of the genre on its own. But, like, that movie is so well done. And anybody that tells you that they knew that there was two killers before the reveal is lying to you.
They have to be.
Yeah.
I don't buy that. I don't buy anybody knowing that.
Yeah, they're straight up lying to you. Because I've heard people be like, "Oh yeah, I totally guessed there was two killers." I was like, "You're full of shit."
I mean, I figured out Saw easily before the ending even more than halfway through.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So what
gave it away?
What gave it away for you?
My love of the show 24.
Jack Bauer.
So basically, I mean, you heard Jigsaw's voice, and Tobin Bell has a very unique voice. And I believe you hear Jigsaw before you see Tobin Bell laying on that stretcher.
Yeah.
And he was the bad guy in season 2. So it's like, oh shit, I know that voice. There he is. Oh, okay. Well, shit.
Wow.
That's just some great, like, observation skills, though.
Yeah. It did not make the impact of the ending any less incredible, though.
God, yeah, the ending of that movie still gives me shivers, man. Or, like, chills, like, in a good way. Like, it's so epic.
Yeah.
Like the twist and the theme, like that theme. Like, we're talking about horror themes.
It's almost like it's so good they should have left it alone and moved on and not made like 19 sequels.
I would have been so okay with that. Yeah, I would have been so okay with that. But I did just actually purchase. Oh, sorry.
No, please. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I did purchase the collection, the Saw collection of like 8 or 9 movies or whatever it is, and I know that 80% of them are probably going to be like absolute garbage, but I'm going to go on the adventure. So, because I haven't seen, like, I've only seen the first like 3.
See, I don't mind
Yeah.
having. Look, full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies because I'm a little bitch. Now, Charlie's wife, when we were all living together, loved
Sustained.
subjecting me to them. I think one Halloween we might have watched all 3 Insidious movies back to back.
That's right, we did.
Um,
That sounds like a good night.
there was a
Good night.
yeah, it's a that first movie is so good until they show the monster's face.
Yeah.
You know, and even though the demon was really cheesy, beginning to end, that's still a fantastic movie.
I agree.
But
She's
Oh,
Brooke,
God, what was it called
she
again?
really, my wife really likes anything that has to do with
Okay.
like the otherworldly,
Yeah, she's
right?
about
It's
that
either going to be
supernatural stuff.
or apparition, you know, things about that element is kind of a return go to, you know, something whether it what was trying to think of the name of that movie that broke the mold because it was all almost documentary style. It wasn't Blair Witch
Oh,
Project.
Paranormal
It
Activity.
was Paranormal
Yeah,
Activity.
Paranormal Activity. Yeah.
So, you know, that I think is I remember that movie being when it first came out. It was one of those that we both fell over for. But that's, you know, anything that has to do with that, something being taken over, haunted, possessed, that's her bag.
And
I
see,
Not so
think
much slashers,
my bag are the things that could actually happen. Silence of the Lambs, The Strangers. Funny games messed me up.
I
Funny
love
game.
Honey Games. I love that movie.
That was great.
I think
Where I was going originally with this, sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
again, just me being a little bitch, is oftentimes I kind of want to know what happened goes down in a horror movie, but I don't want to subject myself to it. So it's why I enjoy things like Ruminations of RedRum, and there's a YouTube channel called Dead Meat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that guy's great. Little cheesy, but I mean, I'm not going to sit down and watch all the Saw movies, but if I kind of want to know what happened, I'll take an hour, blow through all of these, and now I have an idea.
I respect that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of things that I like, whether it be playing like there's a bunch of let's plays, for example, if you're
Oh
into
yeah,
video games, of like the Dark Souls games and the Bloodborne games
Oh,
and all
yeah.
that. And I'm like,
Oh, my
dude, I fucking love the way Bloodborne looks, but I'm terrible at it. And I'm like, I really want to see what the end looks like. Yeah, so like I watch these guys play because I know that I can never do it. Like I cannot do it. I've tried multiple times and I just can't.
Have you ever watched
Oh,
a let's
man.
play of someone doing like Oculus Rift horror?
Oh man, I've actually done some.
That seems like a terrible idea.
Okay, so I played all of Resident Evil 7 in PlayStation VR, and it was like a horror person's dream. Like I was in the
I bet.
house, I was in the world. It was
I watched
amazing.
some of those videos. I mean, the adrenaline pump on that must have been insane.
Oh, dude, it was so cool. There was some points where I had to pause it and like take off the thing and be like, okay, that was fucking terrifying. And
How
then
did I
put it
shit
back on.
myself?
Let me go poop real quick.
Dude, I completely feel you on Dark Souls. Two things I got to tell you that are just, you said Dark Souls, now we got to talk about a game. Okay, so for the people listening, just so you know, Dark Souls is sort of a in any gaming community, even if people have not played Dark Souls, they know that it is a cruel game, and that if you play it, and especially if you beat it, you hate yourself a little bit
Because you got
because
to
it
get
is
good scrub.
torture to get through. Right. And so Brando introduced me to Dark Souls in the most cruel Dark Souls way. He told me a direction to go, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then it was Dark Souls 2.
No,
And it
Dark
was
Souls.
where
Okay, there's two particular situations. You talk about the Dark Souls 2 one. Well, let me set this up.
no, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I wanted to say he
living
put me in
together.
a situation where
This
I
is
was
great.
going to get my
worth
ass.
it. This is worth
I
it.
got my ass brutalized, and he thought it was the funniest shit ever, which you got to do if you're a Dark Souls fan, introduce somebody.
He was playing it out in the living room. I was in my bedroom playing it. I just shut it off. You know, I opened up a chest, got ate by a mimic, and thought, okay, that's it. That's enough for the night. No big deal. There was a save point like 2 minutes prior. No biggie. So I walk out to get something to eat, and he's sitting there with his headphones on, playing it in literally the exact same area. And he just had gotten done with that save point. Like, hey man, don't miss this treasure chest.
I was so pissed, man.
That's cold-blooded.
It
And then there
was
was the
truly
Dark Souls
cold-blooded.
1 incident where I gave him some solid advice. He thought it was a lie because he got his ass kicked. And
I
then he
did.
left me an infamous voicemail.
Epic voicemail. Epic voicemail. I was so furious. I was like, how could you fucking do blah blah? I was going off.
Honestly, Brando, I would have done the same thing. So
I was
kudos on
so
you.
mad.
It was the exact
Kudos on
same
you.
route I took. It's not my fault that you sucked at Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
And dude, the best motivation ever, because since then I've been that annoying gamer who's beaten every one of them several times over. I love
Well,
all
now
of
you need
them.
a PlayStation 5 for Demon Souls Remastered.
I know it looks so good. It
It looks
does.
gorgeous. I know we're going off on a tangent, but just for the
Back on
record,
track.
Sekiro, I
Ooh,
want to play that so bad because I'm a huge Tenchu fan, and it just reminds me of Tenchu so much.
spot on. Spot on. Sekiro is
But I
for
suck at it. I
oh
suck
well
at
for,
it.
Yeah, that's
for
why I
the
put it down and walked
all,
away.
all thousands of my subscriber.
Yeah.
Like Sekiro is a game that's basically in the same vein as Dark Souls. Dark Souls is more of like a medieval, uh, dark, twisted game, as is implied by the title. And then Sekiro is a, ancient Japan version of that same sort of approach. And man, you're right. It is so. If you hadn't played any of the Dark Souls games, I think it's even harder. Like I think those
That's
are
what I
almost
heard,
training skill set for getting into that game at all.
yeah.
There are some actual horror games I do want to touch on because, like the movies, I'm typically too much of a wuss for the games as well, even though I've tried a few. I bought Outlast when it was like $5 on
Mm,
PlayStation Network.
mm,
Yeah, I got
yeah.
about 5 minutes into that, then noped the hell out.
Yeah, that
And
game's scary because like
what's the plot of that kind of? I forget the plot of Outlast.
it's basically like it starts out that
Don't
you're
go into insane asylums that are quasi abandoned. There. That's the plot.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're like a reporter that goes to investigate like some shady shit that's going on in like an asylum, but like the way the game mechanics work is like you can't fight anybody, like you have no weapons, you have to literally hide and run. It sounds boring on paper,
No,
but
it's
it's
not fun.
actually yeah, and like you could only because there's a lot of like parts of the game that are in like absolute darkness, and the only way that you could see is like Blair Witch style if you hold your camera up and use the night vision, and
Oh.
so it gets a little spooky. It's a little
I like that. That sounds like the last scene of Silence of the Lambs too. They kind of get into that.
Yeah,
That's exactly,
exactly.
mindset,
what it
That's a
is.
good. That's actually a perfect example.
I even
Well, so
tried the Fatal Frame games once, and nope,
Oh.
didn't do that.
The Fatal Frame games are cool.
Little bitch. All right, so I'm going to touch on Dark Souls one more time because
All right,
I
all
think
right,
this is funny, and then I got a question back to horror movies. So one last thing, and this is Brando's brilliant idea. At one point, we're playing I'm playing Dark Souls through, and he's sort of just
I
chilling,
retired by video games
watching
at
me
that
go
point.
through it. And I'm killing it. But he starts this. I don't know if it was a bet or what, but he was like, every time you die, you have to do 10 push-ups.
It was when you bought Dark Souls 3, and I just threw down the challenge.
Man,
That's insane. Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. I lost over 20 pounds.
He also
For like
played
6
through a
weeks.
lot of that game like a little bitch just to avoid doing it. Just to avoid risking
Hey,
push-ups.
tactical,
Turning
okay?
invisible and
Oh my
running by
God.
enemies is not tactical. It's being it's wussing out.
I was sore. 150 push-ups. I was done
It gave you
dying.
the option of
I waited to
25
get to the
bodyweight
game.
squats to substitute.
See, you're glad. You should be glad, I should say, that I wasn't your roommate at the time because I would have been like, all right, every time you die, you got to take a shot.
Oh yeah. See, I would have
And
been
he was done.
I should have
Smash.
made it
Done.
20.
Yeah.
I should have made it 20 push-ups if gravity is what killed you.
Oh. I did fall off a lot of shit. That's 100% true.
Mhm.
So, okay, let's get back on course, I guess. We can go about games for hours. You were talking about the first movie that scared you was Candyman. How old were you?
So you know how you have those memories that you probably shouldn't have because you were too young to have them, but for some reason, like they're there, and you don't know if they're real or not, but you think they are because like you were too young to have them. I digress.
Sounds like
So-
a horror movie.
My
plot
dream-
right there.
I digress.
Describing
I
horror movies for me.
Anyway, I must have been probably like I have a memory of watching it in the living room with my sisters, and we all had like, you know, you do that thing where you like make the bed in the living room, and you kind of just like Yeah, so we were doing that, and me and my sisters, dude, I must have been maybe six
Okay.
or seven, 6 or 7.
That's a
Yeah,
good, so 6 or 7, and from that point on, are you just trying to recreate that anytime you see scary movie? Like, like, did you just seek them out from that point, or did it take a few years before you got there? And this is in California, right? You grew up in Cali.
yeah. So I grew up in Cali, and my dad was really into horror movies and nerdy shit, and like books and games, and like he did it all. Um,
Cool.
and he used to show me. We used to watch movies together that was probably way out of my age range at the time.
Oh, yeah,
But
well, like horror movies, Candyman, Twilight Zone, things like that.
yeah. He passed away when I was really young, and so my theory. I never got to ask him this, but my theory is that like he was trying to fit in as much of the stuff he liked with me before he knew he was gone.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to get deep or anything. I'm just
It's
being honest. Yeah.
no, it sounds great.
And so like he used to like I talked about this on Mitch's cast as well. It's not necessarily a horror movie, but there's this movie called Virtuosity
I've seen
with
Wow, I remember that one.
okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like Denzel Washington and but anyway, yeah, exactly. I remember watching that with him. That movie freaked me out as a kid. Like he used to show me shit that he shouldn't have shown me. Is basically what I'm getting to.
You sure you like
on a you got a jump start on your conceptualization, man.
Yeah. So he passed, and then eventually, like on my summers, my mom would work 2 jobs, and she worked next to this video store. So I'd always skate down to go see her, and I would go into the video store and start like I don't know why I gravitated towards horror. It's probably because he watched those with me, but
Right, the interest is there already.
yeah. So I started with A and just alphabetically just went through every movie I could find.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Okay, you said skate, board or blades?
Oh, I mean, I did both for a time, but definitely bored.
All right. Okay. We're good. I
Yeah.
did both for a time, but the one I think I remember the most is my skateboard, my several skateboards. Yeah. I remember getting around town like that. I relate to that, man. You know, mom being overworked and making everything fly on their own. I definitely had the same kind of experience where I would go to the video store and just go through section by section. Just try and I'm a big lover of that kind of any movie for the most part. So I would go through a video store the same way and find things that I liked. And some horror. I mean, there is just the stuff that scared me. Like for some reason, I remember watching Prince of Darkness at
good one.
I think 12 or 13, and that movie freaked me out.
That's a great movie.
You know, that movie freaked me out. I remember like we were saying earlier, Serpent in the Rainbow. That it's those ones that really get in your head, and to some extent my whole sales pitch for watching Seven is it is a trifecta of things that screw with your brain in a way that most movies don't accomplish, and it's also in its own twisted way social commentary. Like it's dark and perfectly acted. Not even so much because of Brad Pitt, although he was good, but Morgan Freeman's voice in a thriller, like brutal murder based sort of detective movie was perfect. Perfect. So, you know, watch it. I don't want to ruin it. You got to watch it sometime, and then we'll talk about it again. I'd love to see what you thought about it.
And I just realized that all 3 of us grew up with overworked moms with walking access to a video store. Mine was VideoQuest on Prince and Fairview.
Mine, I don't remember the name of it. It was like a really hole in the wall, non franchise place.
That's what mine was.
They were letting 9-year-olds rent rated R horror movies, so like
Yeah.
like it wasn't like an official establishment or anything.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right on. I remember mine was called Dr. Video, and it had
something like
like horrible commercial that would be on Saturday mornings where somebody like filmed in the store and the guy's laying on the ground. He's like, doctor, help me. I need something. I'm in a bad mood. And he goes, I suggest 2 comedies and call me in the morning, and had that reflector thing on his head. It was awful. That's why I would go there for the same reason, man. They would rent me the movies I wanted to watch.
My mom had a business near Video Quest, and she just said the owner, yeah, let him get what he wants. It was great.
Yeah, dude. But those like that old school mentality is so. Oh my god, I miss it so much. Like just that corniness and that stupidness. Like I fucking miss that, man.
For some reason, it makes me think of Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, and what is the name of this movie? Kiefer Sutherland, Vampires.
Lost Boys.
Oh, Lost Boys. Another movie I haven't seen actually.
Man, cult classic. I can't say it's scary.
Mitch hates me for not seeing it, but
well, he can hate me.
Mitch hates me for not seeing it.
I've never seen it.
It's one. Okay, yeah, like it's one that just passed me by. I don't know. I just never watched it.
Yeah, it's one of those that's like more of what you were describing earlier. That's a movie where I have a lot of fun watching it. Mm-hmm. You know, it sort of reminds me of everything in the 80s. It's such an 80s.
Oh, that's great.
And that's what's fun about it all the way through. It's not really I don't think there's anything about that movie that scares you, you know, but it's such an 80s flick. A lot of like Karate Kid or anything from the 80s where if you watch it, you kind of got everything about the 80s you needed to know. From the clothes to the music to the stories, is all the same kind of stuff.
It just tugs on your nostalgia heartstrings. Just on that note, though, I haven't seen Cobra Kai yet, and I love the Karate Kid. Like I even like the one with what's her face.
Yeah, no. I
3, I think it is, right?
Hillary Swank.
Is it 4?
Yeah, it was the 4th one.
Wait,
no,
what's 3 then?
It was the 3rd.
Okay, I thought it was the 3rd.
It was the 4th.
It was the 4th one. No, the 3rd one was when the
Terry
Vietnam
Silver.
buddy comes back to rebirth Cobra Kai.
Dude, I don't think I've ever seen 3.
Oh wow!
You're not.
I've seen 1, 2, and I've seen the 4th one. Apparently, I thought the 4th one was 3. So
it probably would have been better if it was.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
So you're another, like we were saying, you grew up in Cali. You came to Tucson. How old were you when you went to Tucson?
So I moved to Tucson when I was 19.
So pretty early, and you've been there since.
I've been here since, yeah.
So you kind of, I live in New Orleans currently, but I moved to Tucson, and stayed there for almost 18, 19 years. But as a transplant, I sort of immediately fell in love with it. My wife's from there and had to get out, needed to live somewhere with rain and everything else. And we've been gone for almost 3 years or a little over 3 years, and she's ready to come back. I think if it fits, you love it. Is it something that just kind of, you felt like you feel like you're stuck, or do you love Tucson like Mitch loves Tucson? I'm the same way.
I definitely don't feel stuck. Would I want to move away someday and experience something new? Sure. But I mean, when I moved from California to Arizona, I was 18 at the time, and I was trying to live like on my own in like the SoCal Los Angeles area. And it was like pretty hard when you're 18 and like don't have like a footprint in something.
No, you're right. Especially in a city like that, something that's that. I had the same experience from Dallas Fort Worth area.
Yeah. So I tried to stick it out there as long as I could, but it just wasn't happening. So my parents, my stepdad and my mom moved out here for his job. So I eventually came out here. Then my mom and my sisters and everything, because my sisters moved down as well, they moved back to California, and I stayed here because I do enjoy it. I actually like it here. I grew up in Cali. Huntington Beach is my stomping grounds. I miss the beach a lot. But there's this like weird, not even weird. It's just like there's this like mellowness to Tucson that I just really, it's comforting, I guess.
The best connotation of the word strange, like all the way through. Like, you know what I mean? Like just the from the plants to the people to the food, everything in the greatest way is a little strange compared to what I grew up with. You know, I'm familiar with your stomping grounds. I have some family that lives out there. It's just different, and it's one of those rare places where, you know, I might find a city that's like somewhere in California, somewhere in Texas. I might find a city like, you know, you can match certain places. That's not easy to do with
Mm.
Tucson, right? It's a one kind of place, and then you're not gonna find too many that's gonna be have the same feel all the way to the sky, man. We do the same thing when we think about it.
I
So
agree. Like, there's this like form of isolation here that just is like you're isolated but not, and it's something that's vibed with me ever since.
well, you know, in talking about horror movies and how you get such delight from things, part of
Mhm.
me wants to ask the question: is it if it's just convenient with so much open space and desolate area, it's just where you hide the bodies? Are we going to find something out about you in Tucson soon?
I
If
cannot confirm
you're
or deny that. So,
look, if you're a Tucsonian and you don't have at least two pre-dug holes, you're not doing it right.
I mean, that's fair. But also at the same time, I haven't lived in Tucson as long as I've lived in Cali. So technically, I'm still a Cali person.
Get digging.
Technically. It's about to flip soon, though. It's about to flip.
So let's. I think we get a good idea. You've been in Tucson for a while. You have this deep and look. That's really an interesting part, and it answers some part of the motivation about why you chose to make your show focused on what you did. And I think we should talk about it a little bit. But I think that's a great point to make, that you know you were introduced to this, something that your father was passionate about. You said he was into a lot of games and books, and I mean I can only imagine that the theme is sort of through all of those things, right? And it was introduced to you from a place of joy, so why would you be afraid of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Okay, so and I guess that's an easy answer for, you know, when all of us decide to put the time and invest our creativity in collaborating on a network with each other and trying to make everything fly in each show. You went with horror movies, the love of horror movies, and the name Ruminations of Red Rum, which is awesome. I mean, if people don't somehow don't get that reference, Red Rum coming from The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen The Shining, you really you got a lot of homework to do, basically. So you get the show going. I mean, what? By the way, congratulations. I don't think we've ever had a. I want to say, man, we're all a few episodes in, and you're delivering a quality product. I mean, how did you come up with the format that you decided to go with? Because I mean, you're going into how it was made, the budget, you know, when it when it was based on a true story, you're looking out to find the true story. Like where did that sort of investigating approach come to looking at these movies?
I mean, I've been interested in talking about horror for a long time. First, I want to just say thanks to Mitch because without him, I wouldn't be doing this at all.
With
And
any of
yeah,
us.
yeah,
Let's just thank you, Mitch. Mitch has been on the show a couple of times. Yeah, we're all happy to be part of the uh, you know, Ruminations Radio Network. Tag, plug,
yeah,
smile.
100%.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. I don't know. I think horror movies carry a lot of nostalgia with me. So like, I have a bit called like the Time Machine. Uh, I didn't do in the latest
I
episode, but
love the time machine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
Makes me feel old as fuck.
see, I mean, me too. But at the same time, it's almost like the Time Machine's like a celebration of your existence, right? So
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
yeah. So it's like I love this movie, and I remember watching this movie when it came out. But I'm into so many other things outside of horror. What else was I into that year that I just maybe forgot about? Like, what music was I listening to? What movies were I watching that weren't horror? What games were I like was I playing?
Man,
I really
that's really smart. I like that a lot.
I really enjoy doing it too. And my co-hosts are a little young, a little young. They're in their 20s, but it's
I
kind
do
of
want to ask you about this. Okay,
yeah,
I do.
sure.
Want to go with that because I not so much about their age, right? But I mean, I know that. Well, I'll just ask you now. You know, I know that when it came to for me picking a co-host, I wanted to pick somebody who could take me out at the knees when I was sounding like an idiot or going on for too long. Two
Uh-huh.
things I have real propensity to do. And I kind of thought about that. It was an obvious choice for me. When you were looking for your co-hosts and you got this idea about the show you're putting together, and you know how you're going to approach it from a nostalgia point of view. And I mean, did you have the concept of the time machine before you ever recorded the first episode, or was that something that came to you during your recording? That's my first question.
It's something that came to me during not recording, because I believe I did it in the first episode, but it's something that came to me early on because I'm a huge lover of music. Like, I love music, and
Yeah.
that's where it started. So I was like, you know what? I want to see what music came out that year that Saw came out. So I started like looking that up, and then when I was writing out like my kind of like you know guide, if you will, to the Saw episode, I was just listening to music from that year and just kind of vibing.
That's
Uh,
great.
Yeah, and
That's
I was like, this is kind of cool. So I was like, what else happened this year? So I started looking up pop culture facts. I was like, what else happened? Like, what movies came out this year? And so like it kind of slowly transcended into like this, into what it is, the time machine segment. And I just wanted to
really
cover
smart.
everything.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of, I don't know what show that did it, but it would be like they would, February 24th, what happened in history on this day, and they would kind of go through different moments in history. You focus on the year that movie came out and everything. I mean, I think that's immersion, right? That's going to pull people into thinking the same thing you intend them to. Where were they? Did they like that song? Oh, I hated that song. I remember I was listening to it on the way to the theater, et cetera, et cetera. Right? It's great, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I hope they get that kind of vibe off it. I mean, I selfishly I did it for myself, but like I hope they get that vibe.
It is great content, I think.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I like I said, selfishly, I kind of just hit it on my own accord, and then I thought that like like there's gonna be that one person that listens to this who's like, holy shit, I forgot about that song, or I forgot about that movie, and like they go back and watch it, and it's unrelated to horror at all. Like, so
Well, you said you enjoy, nostalgia. I think that's you're bringing that experience, and I think, I try to pay attention to any advice I get from any other podcast that I'm listening to or anything like that. And the two things that stand out are learning on your feet. I think that's a huge part of doing this. Is that as you're doing it,
yeah,
you're like clearly coming up with that, and then being able to instill it and run with it. I think is, brilliant in that epiphany, right? Boom,
Mhm.
epiphany. And the other thing is doing things that you would like, right? That's something that I would like if I were watching it. And same thing, like you were saying, you appreciate that and you're just doing it for yourself. But that is something I could connect to, right? And I think that's instinct, right? You're developing based on instinct and rooted in what you enjoy yourself. Both of those are good. I
yeah.
enjoy.
Like I almost have more fun prepping for the cast than I actually do doing the cast, just because of that reason. Like, not that I love doing the cast. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm like,
do.
the prepping part is like equally as fun because I have this like mode I get into where I'm just like, all right, let's go back to the year 2002, or let's go back to 1985, or like, and I dive in.
I think it's needed, right? Especially now. I think it's a lot of the kind of entertainment. I think that's what we're touching on, right? These are the things that we look for so we don't necessarily have to be forced to digest the reality of outside the door in some senses.
Mhm.
And for you, that's a little unavoidable. I mean, you're still, out there dealing with people every day. Is it more of a horror show than the movies that you love or less?
You're talking about just being out, like,
Yeah, working like your normal 9 to 5.
yeah. Uh, I mean, it's more of uh, this is a hard thing to answer. I would say it's more of like a mental problem with me more than it is like actually. I don't. I don't know. This is a hard question. So like,
I'm asking, man. I'm sorry, man. We can pass.
no, I'm not passing shit, bro. I ain't passing shit. I'm just saying. I think that it's not hard for me to grasp what's going on, and it's hard for me to grasp other people's like train of thought as how they're dealing with it, but it's taking that step back and trying to see it through their eyes. As long as I'm doing everything I can to, protect myself and the people around me. That's all that matters. So it's not hell. It's not a horror show. We have to live on, and people have to get. The place I work at has a lot of necessities, so I can't blame people for coming in.
Right.
Honestly, it's the world we live in. It is what it is. I don't think it's a horror show, but I think we're all a little exhausted. That's all I'll say.
No, I think it's a hopeful and good message. I kind of with you on that. So I don't know. I wanted to touch on that for a second because I think that sometimes affects, where you are, kind of how you bring in on a show. I know for me, we've had a couple of times where we start recording and we've just gotten done with a long day in the world and it sort of comes out that way. And then we're like, okay, let's scratch that. We clearly weren't in a happy place,
Yeah.
like I'm always really focused on that kind of thing. So, but I went way off tangent anyway. You building the show, you decide that you need co-hosts. What drew you to two? Like you went with a pair. There's a total of 3 on the show. Like what made you think 2, and then why those people? Like what drew them into the fray?
So I have a lot of friends in my like close inner circle. That's kind of like you, Brando, like the Mitch crew, like
Sure.
that know me extremely well in a lot of different ways, but none of which appreciate like horror like I do.
That's fair.
These 2 people that I chose to be my co-hosts, I met in Tucson, and they see it like I see it, and
they get joy from it. They sound like they do. You guys sound like you're on the same wavelength for sure.
Yeah, we're all having a blast. And we used to go see, like, our tradition was every time a new horror movie came out, good or bad, we would go see it first day. Just support the industry, support the horror genre. Let's get more movies made. Let's go watch it. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Like, let's just go see it. And it became a tradition. So we kind of like, my mentality was like, I want to like roll that tradition into what we can do now that we can't all hang out and see each other. And
right.
These 2 people, they're 10 years younger than me.
Let's give them names.
Yeah, of course. Georgie and Ian. Georgie is the final girl, and Ian is Ian without an E.
Okay.
But no, they're great, and they get the genre, and I just have fun talking with them about horror movies, and they're just good people.
Am I right in thinking that Ian comes off to me as analytical?
Yeah. He also is in that like young state where he thinks he knows everything. So like
that can wear off.
Oh yeah, no, it'll totally wear off, and you gotta knock him off his cloud occasionally, But
hey,
video game discussions now make more sense.
There you go.
Yeah,
and
then Georgie.
Yeah, and Georgie, the final girl, she's a little bit more grounded, but she's going to school for like forensic science and stuff, and she's really smart, and she's just she has a good head on her shoulders, and she just loves horror, and like we just break shit down, and it's fun.
Yeah, she dissects a scene really well, and she'll recall a theme from the first scene throughout to the end of the movie. I mean, I enjoy the show. So you go with Georgie, you go with Ian. You got your show going now. Have you had those moments other than the time machine? Would you say it's been sort of I know it's been like an organic, like I'm almost like surfing, and feeling out how it's going. Are you having the same experience, or do you guys feel like you've already nailed your rhythm and you're just kind of going back to it show to show?
No, we haven't nailed the rhythm yet. I think it's getting there. The first couple episodes are really raw, and I wish that maybe we didn't touch on a few of those movies, just because there's like 28 Days Later is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I mean, considering not that I'm saying that podcast, how do you not start off with The Shining?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I feel like we should get some B-rated horror under our belt first, But It's slowly evolving. I think it's getting better every episode. We haven't recorded a lot recently because we're all actually in like the retail environment, and Christmas
Oh
and the
yeah,
holiday
crazy.
stuff has been crazy. But we're looking to get back to that. I think it stems mostly like the 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 success I'm seeing in the future is going to probably stem from us being more organic and just let it flow rather than planning it out. But I
Well,
mean, I don't know. We'll
it's
see.
me. I mean, I don't know. All I can say is, I listen to your show and I feel like you can. I feel like you could present that material to me in any way. You could you could dissect a movie in parts and I would listen to every episode. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or you could do it in one big chunk and I would still go through. I think the material is so good. I think you're bound to catch your rhythm sooner, right? You guys seem to all love it, get along well. Do you when you're in planning? I mean, do you guys just plan in pieces, or do you get on 5 minutes before, go over it, and jump in?
So all like the road mapping is mostly me prior to the episode. We usually jump in like maybe a day before, just a time where we have like 10 to 15 minutes to kind of hash out like maybe things we want to touch on, or if anybody else has any ideas that like I didn't think of, or another co-host. But usually it's me prepping, a couple days prior, and then we kind of just jump in and just talk.
I like it.
So
Pretty smart. What do you
it's kind
think?
of Wild West. It's kind of Wild West up in here.
I like the Wild West. All right, I like
I
that term.
appreciate that.
Can you give us any hints about your upcoming episodes and what we can look forward to movie wise?
So the next one we're doing is kind of I guarantee you a lot of people aren't going to know it. It's Mexico Barbaro, and it's a Spanish film.
Ooh,
I like that.
But it's also a like an episodic film. So it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody has seen VHS. Maybe not. Okay, so it's basically a movie with 5 mini movies in it, each directed by a different person.
That's I like. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I've seen similar
an
setups to
anthology
film.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, anthologies.
It's an anthology, yeah. So it's 5 little short stories directed by 5 different directors, and it's a Spanish movie, and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be
So,
interesting.
with this isn't your first step outside of your, you know, your sort of normal. When people say horror movies, they're going to think of the major franchises that have come out in, say, the United States.
Mhm.
You've done a couple now that are uh, international films, foreign films. I think them was that French, Belgian.
Them was French, yeah.
And so, where did that happen? Like, it just in your going through the alphabet at the video store, you happen to come across the international horror section. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, where did you get the interest, or is it just horror in general? I mean,
So them is actually based. So the movie Strangers is based off them. So it's a home invasion movie, and uh, them is supposedly based on real events, and these strangers.
I love that part of that cast, by the way.
Okay, yeah, if you listen to it, you'll know. But the Strangers is based off that, so that's where the interest peaked initially. Because I like the Strangers. I like the Strangers 2 more, but we'll talk about that a different time.
Sure.
But that's where that came from. As far as
Because
foreign
now you're talking about
films,
Mexico, one that's filmed in Spanish. I mean, I didn't know if that was just a niche that you had kind of found inside horror that you like going back to. You just think, does it push it over the edge of joy with subtitles?
no, actually, I mean, I definitely have to be in the mood for like a movie with subtitles, but I mean, what really drew me to that was the fact that it's an anthology film, and I love anthology horror movies.
Okay.
And so it doesn't matter the language. If it's a good anthology movie, I want to watch it. Or if it's a bad, I don't give a fuck. If it's a bad anthology movie, I want to watch it. So um, that's what initially drove me to that, was it being anthology.
That excites me about the potential of your show, because it's not just going for what people know and you breaking down what's familiar. You're literally introducing new material that a lot of people will never have deigned to approach or hear of in the first place. And you're given more than just, hey, I like it, let's see it. I think that's pretty cool, man. And you clearly enjoy, like you said, fuck it, you'll listen to it, you'll watch it even if it's a bad anthology. I'm the same way. I mean, I like to watch it no matter what.
I mean, at worst case, I get to shit on a movie and like laugh at it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
But
Brando on for that. He's perfect for that.
but best case, I mean, I get a really cool anthology movie.
All I'm saying is most of those home invasion movies could be solved if more people made friends with Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson.
100%. 100%. No, 100%. I actually touch on that in the episode, but
well, there's a and I don't know the name of it, so I'm gonna butcher it, but there's a YouTube channel that put out a couple of videos about how the military would handle a horror movie.
Oh yeah, I think it's Black Rifle Coffee Company. Mediocre coffee, good content.
If you want to be a sponsor.
Veterans versus horror movies, I think is what it is. They got a couple of those now. They're pretty funny.
I'd watch it.
Man, I think that's a great like place to wrap up this description of basically why people should listen to your show, man. But that it comes from someplace in your history. I think that's a lot of story people get about it. And they, for those who have listened to Brevity Box and haven't taken a moment to explore the other content that's out there, Kyle's show is worth checking out. Ruminations of RedRum. You can find that on Spotify and iTunes. It's also, you can go to the website at www.ruminationsradionetwork.com. You can see all of our catalog of shows and check out his content. It's a lot of exciting stuff to come, including foreign films now. It's broadening horizons, changing lives. Kyle, thanks for coming and telling us about who you are on your show, man. I mean, it was fun.
I appreciate you having me, guys. It's been fun.
We do have one last thing for Kyle, though.
Good. Yeah, we do have something special, man. So,
okay.
Yeah. So for a long time, I've been totally shamelessly repurposing the Pivot questionnaire that was used by James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio. And for a long time, Brando has told me you should just find your own questions, make up your own questions. Let's do something that's not just a direct rip, which is, if you look at those questions a lot of the time, that's difficult for me to do. I overthink it. I have problems with it. And this was the first time where it made a lot of sense. And Brando and I started chatting on it, and I can't take credit for most of these. It was just such a no-brainer. So we have made our first original rendition motivated by the Pivot questionnaire, specifically for you and the horror genre. And that's
honored.
The show. Okay. Here
so
we go.
Charlie, do you have some of your own, or are you just using my 8?
I typed them out. It changed a little bit of the wording.
I feel like I need to get a beer for this.
You could. You want us to wait? Let's pause for beer break.
Yeah, let me get a beer real quick. Hold on.
Break.
You've been listening to the Brevity Box, brought to you by Ruminations Radio Network. If you like this cast or want to find some other great topics, join me, Optimist, on the Retro Futurist Culture podcast for great discussions on all things retro future. Check it out at ruminationsradionetwork.com.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
Beer in hand.
First swig before we get into these questions. 8 questions.
8? We got 8 questions. Okay.
8 questions.
I tried to get 10, but I ran
me on the spot, man.
You're gonna like it. I like them. They're good, man. All right.
Okay. Let me take my swig. Okay.
I miss alcohol.
We should do beer breaks more often. Okay, first swig is in. We're ready to go.
Yep, let's go.
All right. What is your favorite horror movie? Some of these are easy.
Halloween. Original.
What is your least favorite horror movie?
Leprechaun.
Leprechaun or Leprechaun in the Hood?
All the leprechauns.
All right. What horror movie verse would you like to be stuck in?
Can you elaborate on the question?
What horror movie would you like to be stuck in?
Oh,
What universe of that, whatever they're creating, like a Halloween's universe or, Nightmare on Elm Street's universe.
I mean, the best part about horror movies is that I get to watch them without being stuck in them. But man, that's a hard question.
Which one would the least?
You know what? Fuck it, Blair Witch. Just throw me in the middle of the woods.
Blair Witch is the one you'd like to be stuck in. Okay, opposite.
Multiple maps. Easy solution. All right, next
what
question.
What would you least like to be stuck in? What movie? What horror franchise would you least like to be stuck in?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
that's a good answer.
Okay, what sound or noise do you find most terrifying?
Nails on a chalkboard.
Favorite horror movie villain?
Michael Myers.
Easy one, yeah.
Yeah.
Least favorite?
What's up?
Least favorite?
Oh, least favorite.
You're gonna go Leprechaun again?
I mean, he's an easy answer. He's an easy answer. So let me think of something else. Stepfather from Stepfather 3.
Okay.
Wow. I'm not expecting you guys to understand. All right,
this is
the real people will know.
This is going to be the most telling. I already gave him mad props for this question. I like this one a lot. All right. If Pennywise from It was real, what fear would he use against you?
Honestly, the terrible ending to the original movie where he turns into a spider, that'd be my fear.
One big spider or a bunch of little spiders?
One big spider.
One big spider.
One big spider. And wrapping me up and sucking my... Yeah, dude, that'd be my... one big spider. And that's the true form, apparently, so...
Well, as a book reader, it's the closest thing we can comprehend to its true form.
I never read the book.
It's
how accurate is that?
Aside from basically the ending where like the sixth graders have this weird gangbang to bring themselves back together.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Super weird part that was definitely fueled by cocaine.
Sure.
It's actually a fantastic book and coming of age story.
Okay.
That's a really fucked up part.
So read the book, boys and girls. That's a look.
Even Stephen King has admitted in like the last several years that he actually really regrets writing that part.
Oh, we're not done yet. I'm stealing 2 minutes. Still 2 minutes.
Still 2 minutes.
What is your guys' favorite horror movie?
Well, so that's kind of why I was at. Well, let's let Brando go first.
Okay.
I think you're being short-winded. Brando?
The original Poltergeist.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Answer. Kind of upset with you for taking that one from me. That's a good answer.
Thanks for showing me that when I was like 6 years old, Auntie Sherry.
God, you guys have known each other for so long.
We have known each other for a long time. 20 years? 20 years, Brando?
Almost.
That's awesome.
Almost 20 years. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
What's yours, Charlie?
You're saying, Kyle? Yeah.
Charlie, what's your
favorite?
You're
waiting for me to tell you what my favorite movie is?
Yeah.
That's what I was asking about Seven earlier. Just because there's a terror aspect to it. I still think I could have said Poltergeist easily.
Okay. But,
I would have said, I'm going to say Serpent in the Rainbow is probably the one kind of classic horror movie that it's either got to be that or Seven. Those two movies freaked me out pretty good.
So just quick note, I tried looking up Seven on Amazon when you were talking about it because I was interested, and they don't sell it on DVD or Blu-ray. So I think I might have to rent it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine why. I mean, there's some like
popular movie, right?
It was filmed at a time when nobody was worried about anybody getting triggered. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot of scenes
Now,
in
there's
that.
some straight up upsetting parts in that movie.
There are some upsetting parts in that movie that
Yeah.
give me pause, man. Give me serious pause.
Okay.
But those are our two answers.
And
Good.
what's your least? Well, actually, what is your favorite? Oh, this is the last one. What is your favorite? Like, when you think of horror music, horror themes,
music.
what's the first theme that comes to mind?
That's a good ass question. Can I tell you something that's funny though?
John Carpenter.
I
the
don't-
thing.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah, good answer. Great answer, actually.
Great answer.
That's a great answer. Yeah, fucking great soundtrack, man.
Yeah, I almost I would say Halloween, but when I started thinking of Halloween's theme, I almost started thinking of Unsolved Mysteries from
Holy crap, they really are.
I'm at home alone, but I wanted to watch it.
God, I used to be terrified as a kid, dude.
Yeah, it would terrify me. That music.
Yeah, same.
My grandma made me watch that TV show, and it was scary.
The
You're like
fucking
4.
intro, but it did sound like I never thought of it before. It does have that reminiscent.
Dude, I'll take it.
Yeah, Unsolved
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I like it. I like it.
Man, dude, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. This was a lot of fun. Thanks. Thank you again.
I have one last thing we should touch on here that all three of us could give an answer to.
No rush, man. Go
What
for it. I'm really trying to think of Mitch at this
Piece
point.
of media. What horror piece of media coming in the future are you most looking forward to?
Probably Halloween Kills, the next Halloween movie. So I don't know if people know this, but they're pretty much resetting the timeline, kind of like what they did with the Terminator franchise, where only the original Halloween is canon now. Like H2O, Halloween, like the 2, 3 season of the witch, all that shit. None of them are canon anymore, and it's just a Halloween 1, and then the 2018 Halloween. I think it's 2018. Which just came out. That's the sequel, and then now they're releasing 2 more
With Jamie Lee back again.
With the Scream Queen herself back again. Yeah, so that's probably what I'm most looking forward to. But yeah.
But so, it's interesting because that might be a better way to end the episode anyway, because it touches on where I started with it. When that kind of any movie that comes out now that's in that same the same universe as content that already existed, and they can tie that together with a great storyline. I was using Cobra Kai being Karate Kid being the source material, and we're talking about Mandalorian with the Star Wars series being its source material. That's a good example of how Halloween did it right with that movie too. When the Scream Queen herself comes back, that movie was great. That was another example of them sourcing the story, the actor from the original content, and it going really, really well. That I don't, we're the first to get to enjoy that kind of thing going on, and it's pretty great.
I second that. Yeah, it's crazy because like the original Halloween is great. Halloween 2 is even good. It gets a little rocky. Yeah. And you got this new generation coming in that's like, you know what? Fuck all that. Let's just make a good sequel to, and like let's finish it also. Like Jamie Lee Curtis is getting old. They have like this they have this vision that they want to like end this. And I'm down for it. Like I still have those other movies if I want to go watch them. Nobody's going to watch fucking Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Nobody's going to watch that movie. Man. Nobody's going to watch it. So, like, fuck it. Just, like, rewrite it and just go to town. Like, it's a new generation.
No, I think it's really, I've enjoyed anytime they can do it well. It has been a big benefit to the story, to just the depth of the whole movie itself. I'm telling you, when you watch Cobra Kai, you'll get.
Dude, I need to watch it.
You'll get there right away.
I haven't expressed how much I really like the Karate Kid, so yeah, no, I need to watch that show.
Like, you would enjoy the hell out of it, man. Again, this has really been fun. I mean, if I hadn't already started listening, it makes me want to listen to your show. I hope that's the effect it has on other people too. You've got a really great program, man. Congratulations on Ruminations of RedRum.
Thanks, dude.
thanks again for joining us, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up here after an amazing continuation double overtime here, going through different questions and just enjoying the company and the
And I just
content.
realized the one horror thing I was looking forward to this year apparently sucks.
What's
Which-
that?
CBS was going to do a new The Stand miniseries.
Yeah. I mean, it's CBS. So.
I love the book, but nobody.
That's
will
a book
do it.
I've read. I like it too. But it's CBS, man. I mean,
Yeah.
There's a ceiling there, man.
yeah, there is a ceiling. There is a ceiling.
You can't get where you need to go sometimes with that. You got to push it a little further. I mean, Deadpool's rated R at this point. They can't do The Stand, right?
HBO should be the ones doing that. But
God, 100%.
Yeah, see, that would be the right way. I'm sure CBS just won the bidding war, and we'll have to wait 10 more years for The Stand on HBO.
I'll watch it.
all right, we keep going off on
Sorry,
tangents. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, guys. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in other content like Ruminations of RedRum, please check us out at www.ruminationsradionetwork.com and like and subscribe and all that jazz. Have a good one. Later on.
Stay spooky.